What's going on, Monkeypod universe? Jade, Greg, so happy to see you here.
Ooh,
We
best
we
day
hang
ever.
we hang out in these little pockets and some special events, but I don't think the three of us have been on screen as one combo together in quite some time. And I got to tell you, it feels right. Feels like this is where we need to be. So, welcome and thanks for being here.
I agree. It's been a minute and it feels really good to connect. I mean, we were together in real time a few weeks ago, celebrating
Cam's birthday.
celebrating both Cam's birthday and Jade's nuptials. But congratulations, Jade, on your recent wedding.
Yeah,
Thanks. I heard the guy that walked me down the aisle was pretty hot.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Gave a good speech.
I
Mhm,
accept this
mhm.
compliment. I was looking good that day, although I do
Mhm.
think between the two of us, you might have had the edge. For
So much
anyone
love.
missing the context there, Jade kindly asked me to give her away at her wedding, and I graciously accepted and was honored to participate.
And it was a beautiful time. And Jade and I got to spend some time together at an automation industry conference for the whole week before that, too. So lots of time together. So as we see people start to join the live stream here, I have only a couple of very brief jobs to take care of because our guest speaker for today's special presentation is our very own Greg Jenkins. So going to take care of some of the introductions and some of the housekeeping pieces. Jade and I are going to stay for the duration and, help manage any questions and ask our own questions and these types of things as we go through it. But Greg really is the star of the show today. And I think that's a really, really great opportunity for us because a lot of Greg's job over the last, 10 or 11 years that Monkeypod has been operating has been, teaching us, but also holding space for other people to teach each other and hosting conversations. And I just think it's really cool that today we get to do that for you, Greg, and give you the space to talk about one of the things that you're one, an expert in, and two, has impacted a lot of people because you've been sharing this one conversation concept for a pretty long time now. I think the online course version of this came out 6 or 7 years ago, right? And it's been kind of part of your work since then. So my jobs before I hand it over to you is to one, welcome everybody to the stream, welcome both of you, and then also just to talk very, very briefly about engagement. Um, we are here live today on the Riverside platform. If you are watching this as a replay, I know a lot of people do, especially if you're around the world, a different time zone, do the exact same thing in terms of comments and questions. Just leave them in the question area, the comment area of whatever platform you're on, so Facebook or YouTube. We will definitely watch those and stay connected with you. Jade, before we give this to Greg, did I miss anything on a housekeeping? Do you want to say anything before we go?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
First of all, yes, chat. And if you know, chat's where it's at. Chat's amazing. Chat's where we make friends. Chat's where we make lifelong connections. So if you think this is cool, I'm not saying if you think we're cool, which depends on the day. But if you think this is cool and you would love to conversate about these kinds of things on a regular basis with not just us, but the coolest people in the world, they're also known as OG members. We have an online community membership where it's literally a Facebook group of a conglomeration of people who are dead ass serious, but also selfless and joyous, and the amount of information sharing is incredible. So be sure to join that membership. It is the most amazing, non-expensive thing you'll ever do in your life to hang out with really cool people like these guys on either side of me. And the last thing I want to share is can't remember. So I'll drop it in the chat when it comes back up to the old noggin. Mm-hmm.
Go
But we're with you for the
ADHD
hour,
brain.
so we'll.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Oh,
remembered.
there it
I
is.
remembered. I was gonna say when Cam was entering, Greg is like, oh, he's been sharing this great stuff forever, and he's impacted many lives. I don't know if anyone noticed, but I was like, me, 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 me. Greg's gonna like blow your mind today about some amazing concepts that A, was one of the first things I learned from Monkeypod, and I was like, this shit's awesome. I'm joining this family. And then B, I went through the customer journey. I opted in, I bought things, I learned, I loved it, I grew. Fast forward 8 years, Greg's walked me down the aisle. So, I mean, if that's not a testimonial, what is?
What
I don't know.
is?
That's all I
Yes.
got.
Before we started the call today, you said, we kind of introduced this as something that you've been working on for a long time. The mini course came out 7 years ago, but you said something to us in the prep time that was that this has only stood the test of time, or you might have even said it only has been, become clearer that this is what works. Can you just talk about like where you got to in this presentation now? And then I'm going to zip it and let you kick off whenever you feel ready.
Let me just back up a little bit to like the impetus for this presentation. When I started Monkeypod, there were a lot of, and there still are a lot of really capable consultants in the small business automation space, in the Keep world, doing the things that a lot of people need in a one-on-one capacity. And so I chose to keep Monkeypod focused on education and training. Because that was a way to differentiate ourselves. It was also a way to reach more people. But what happened is as we built these training courses and our membership grew, people started to trust and respect me and the way that I, worked with small businesses. And so I started to get more and more requests for one-on-one consulting projects. And I didn't offer consulting as a service. And so as a way to, sort of continue to help people without like bending that rule I had set for myself, I thought, great, if I was to consult with someone, how can I package up what that like diagnostic would look like? How could I, take the conversation that I would have and create like a self-paced version of it? And that is what gave birth to this presentation, which is why it is called The One Conversation. This is the one conversation that I would have if I was consulting any business on the planet. And then I have also added the subtitle there of how to fix or grow any business on the planet, because I think that this is universal. And to Cameron's point, when I built this, whatever it was, 8 or 9 years ago, it was my thought process at the time, and it has continued to refine as I've given this presentation and learned and added things to it, or gotten feedback about it. But it has also continued to be validated, and that's what I was saying to Cameron and Jade before we went live, is that this presentation, it works, and it works because it's like a physical from your doctor. The humans are different, but the process is the same for testing, are we healthy? And similarly, this conversation, I believe, can fit for any business on the planet. So that's the context I want to give here. No matter whether you've seen it before or not, it works in that moment. Just like even if you've had a physical before, you've changed, your health has changed, the doctor has changed. And so continually revisiting these same things will surface up new insights and perspectives. Now, there is an assumption here that I want to make sure we're in front of. If you are going to embark on this diagnostic, it is important that you have a product that people are willing to pay for, right? That's sort of the baseline for just being a business. But I do find that like if you're going to do this diagnostic, you have to have some customers, because we're looking at the experience those customers have. And if it's just hypothetical, it's much harder to actually identify those friction points that you're going to prioritize and then improve. So that is the assumption here. And if you're watching live with us or watching the replay, go ahead and either in the chat or in the comments below the replay, just indicate like, yeah, I do have a product, or here's what my product is. I've got customers, because at the very least, this should set you up for the rest of this conversation being as impactful as possible. Now, before we get into the core content, there are two sort of caveats I want to give. The first is that this conversation, this presentation, it starts super high level. So it will get more and more targeted as the conversation goes on. but I don't want you to be frustrated if the first couple of minutes feel like review, because it might be. But I find that centering is helpful because it allows us to move more quickly and more intentionally through the remainder of the presentation. And then the second reminder I want to give everyone is that you don't have to do everything all at once. If you pay attention for the next 45 minutes, I have no doubt that you will get ideas for your business. But what I have found is that some people get so many ideas, it can be a little overwhelming. And so I want to give you permission to take those ideas and put them in a parking lot. You don't have to do it all at once. We will help you identify the next step, the most important thing, and you can just focus on that first. And then as you have the residual bandwidth or ROI coming in from that, you can move on to the next item in that parking lot or on that list. So is this for new or existing businesses? The answer is yes. Whether you are a new business or an existing business launching a new product like Heather, you are in the right place. This framework, this process, this diagnostic can work for all of those. And I just have this here because I like the IKEA backdrop there. You know how when you get an IKEA piece of furniture or an item there's like 50 or 70 steps or something you have to go through. The point of this is that you might already be on step 7. You might already be on step 21, right? So as I run through the different steps of this diagnostic, recognize that like you might be a few steps in already, and that's okay. So we will review and validate the things you might have already done, and then we will continue forward with whatever the next steps are for you. So you might have a to-do list that looks like this, where you have already done some of the things I'm going to lay out. And then when we get to the step that is next for you, that's where the real-time relevance will kick in. So here's the scenario. A million years ago, when I first created this presentation, it started because of a conversation that took place in our private community. Jade gave a shout out to the OG membership. If you are not a member, you are welcome to join us at ogmembership.com. But the conversation went a little something like this. There was a gal, her name was Gail. So there was a gal named Gail, and Gail asked, actually it was Val. There was a gal named Val. That's even better. Asked, hey, I have these different products, a $27 course, a $57 course, and a $297 membership. And basically what Val was asking is, how do I grow my business? And I realized as I was drafting like a response answer to Val, like the advice I was giving wasn't just for her. It really could be for just about anyone. It could have just as easily been Monkeypod's milestones, right? So hers were a $27 course, a $57 course, and a $297 membership. But for Monkeypod, right, we have the Wise Words mini courses. That's a free opt-in mini course. We could drop the links in the chat for those of you who are interested. And then when you take that free course, the automation guides you towards our flagship course, which is the fundamentals of business automation. And when you take that course, the automation guides you towards the OG membership, which we have mentioned a couple of times already. But the reason I highlight those milestones is because I find almost every business on the planet has a version of these milestones. So I want to walk you through thinking about and articulating what those milestones are for your business. Now, this is the agenda for the remainder of this conversation. We will start with the milestones, right? Identifying what those milestones are. And then we will talk about how you bridge the gaps between those milestones. And then we'll talk about the way that you can implement measurements or tracking along those milestones and bridges. And then we'll talk about optimization, how to make improvements for it moving forward. So in the next 42 minutes at this point, this is the pathway we are going to cover. I call that out because you might already know your milestones. You might already know your bridges, right? But depending on where you are, at some point in this presentation, I'm expecting the framework we are discussing to click into place as you think about your business and the way that this context applies to your specific scenario. And please feel free to tell us when you have a breakthrough or a light bulb moment and something starts to make sense. So here we are in part 1. The goal of this section is to map the milestones for a product in your business. And when I talk about milestones, we're talking about the high-level touch points or inflection points that represent your customer journey. So I want you to pull out a piece of physical paper or some Post-it notes or open up, a Google Doc or something. And what I'd like you to do is write 3 different numbers, 1, 2, and 3, just 3 different, circles or blobs or, columns. And the goal here is to map the purchase of one of your products, just one, and then put something before and something after it, right? So very, very rarely, never, does somebody just buy a product out of nowhere and then disappear. Something generally happens before they buy, and something certainly should happen after they buy. So the goal here is to put the purchase of your flagship product in that center column, right? And so think about what it is that you sell. A few moments ago, I asked you should have a product that people are willing to buy. That should be in the center column here of whatever it is that you are working on. Now, I do want to say that I recognize you might have many products. So for today's exercise, focus on your main one. The one that, if you took it away, you wouldn't be in business, right? It should be the core offering of your company, and something should happen before it. Something should happen after it. So think about what that core service or offering is, drop that one in the middle, and then put a milestone before and a milestone after. And here are some examples of the milestones that might be before the purchase. It could be they opt in for your email list or your blog updates, or it could be that they request an ebook, they start a free trial, they request a consultation or request a demo or a quote, or they register for a webinar like today, right? Something that represents them being interested and they are on your radar, aware of your brand, but making progress toward whatever that purchase is. And I would love to hear in the chat what that example might look like for you. But think about what happens before somebody purchases. How do we know that somebody is trending in that direction? And then in column 3, after the purchase, we want to do the same thing. What happens next, right? After somebody buys, what is the next milestone that they are traversing toward? It could be filling out a survey. It could be a second purchase, right? Maybe we want them to buy another thing. It could be an upsell or a testimonial, or a referral offering us the information for somebody else who we might be able to serve, or it could be subscribing to your membership or your continuity program, right? So the point here is we are anchoring your core purchase by putting milestones around it. And what that creates is a timeline. So the purchase is that item in the middle. Of course, that's where we make our money, but something happened before and after it. And so by articulating what those other milestones are, we start to create the progression that forms our customer journey. Here are some more examples of what those progressions might look like. Somebody might request an ebook and then buy and then take a survey, right? Somebody might request a free trial of a course and then buy the whole course and then ascend into your membership. Somebody might register for a webinar. They might buy directly from the webinar and then renew their subscription at a certain point later. The progression might be 3 different purchases. That's what it was in the initial example I gave from Val, a $27 course, a $57 course, and a $200 membership, right? It could be a progression of just purchases. They might want to see a demo in real time, attend a sales call, and then give a referral, right? That could be an entirely offline set of milestones, right? So for you, those milestones are going to be unique to your business, right? Think about what you are selling. And then what is it that tells you somebody is on their way or has already transitioned past that and is trending towards whatever that next milestone is? Now, I have been using 3 milestones for this example, but I want to be abundantly clear that you can have more milestones. In fact, sometimes more is better, because the more granular you get, the more detail you have available as to what that customer journey looks like. So at the bare minimum, you should have 3. But I want to give you permission to have more if you're like, well, honestly, they do this and this before they buy, and then we have these other things, right? So feel free to enrich your customer journey by adding more milestones to this process. But if it feels more comfortable, start with 3 for now, just knowing that there will be a point later where I talk about introducing more milestones to your existing process. Now, if you are familiar with the KEEP term business automation, there is a set of stages that represent the customer journey framework, and that can be a good guide for this process, right? So we have on the Monkeypod blog a customer journey crash course. We also have a handful of other resources about lifecycle marketing in general, or lifecycle automation, as it is sometimes called. And I like to use that framework to dissect or bisect, to split the customer into different chapters. And sometimes the milestones parallel those chapters really well. So if that is a framework that makes sense to you or you have used in the past, feel free to adopt that here as well. So at this point, at the minimum, you should have 3 milestones articulated for your business, right? For Monkeypod, it's the Wise Words mini course, it's the Fundamentals of Business Automation flagship course, and the OG membership. But your milestones will be unique based on your offering and what else your business has going on. So stage 2 of this diagnostic is to examine the bridge between those milestones. So I call this paving the path or building the bridge because I am a sucker for alliteration, but you can call it whatever you want. We're talking about the gaps in between your milestones. So no matter what your 3 milestones are, there should be these inherent gaps between them, right? Between attending the webinar and making the purchase, between making the purchase and starting the course or finishing the course, right? So something is happening in those gaps, or something should be happening. So in this part of the conversation, we start to look more carefully, what is it that takes place there? And for a visual representation, I like to think of those milestones as being like these high-level peaks, right? Because we're hoping somebody can get from milestone 1 to milestone 3. That's the goal here. And sometimes they do. If you have customers, great. They are actually making their way across this. That means that your milestones, there is a pathway. Somehow they're bushwhacking or ninja warrior crossing these chasms to get from milestone 1 to 2 to 3. That's the goal. And that is how you grow your business, right? But that's not always the way that it works. We might think our milestones are self-explanatory and people are sliding down it like it's a bowling alley and they're wearing socks, but sometimes they're slipping between those cracks. If our milestones are too far apart or there's too much friction for them to get from one to the next, they might be falling into those chasms in between the milestones. If you have ever heard the phrase slipping between the cracks or leads slipping between the cracks or falling off the radar, this is how it happens, right? This is where leads go to disappear. They slip between the cracks of our milestones, and the answer is to design a solution, is to build those bridges so that as many people as possible make it from milestone 1 to 2 and from milestone 2 to 3, right? That is where automation shines, is by helping patch those gaps. So the first thing to do here in this stage of the diagnostic is to ask yourself, like, is there something there? Between milestone 1 and 2, does something exist, right? For Cameron, Jade, and I, between the Wise Words mini course and the Fundamentals of Business Automation course, like, is there something patching that gap? There is. I happen to know because we built it. But if you don't know, this is an opportunity to go examine in your business, like, well, what actually happens? How does that baton get passed? So question number 1 is it there? Between the free trial and the course, there's the free trial experience. Between the course and the membership, there's the course experience, right? And the reason I'm like hammering home that you should go audit those existing bridges is because too many businesses just assume that something is there. Or maybe something is there, but they built it 10 years ago and it doesn't reflect the current priorities of their business or of their offerings, right? It may not have their tone or their brand personality in it, right? Somebody else might have built it in the position that you now hold before you got there. And so getting really clear on what is bridging those gaps helps you take ownership of the experience that is being created for your leads, prospects, and customers. So step number one is just looking to see, is something there? Is something connecting those milestones? And then the second question to ask here, like once we know something is there, well, is it strategic? Is the experience happening between those milestones intentional? Is it something that picks up the baton from one and deliberately passes it forward? So think about this flow here, from free trial to trial experience, to course experience, and to membership. If you know that this is the pathway that produces customers for you, then each step in this process should be doing two things: acknowledging where they came from and sending them deliberately to the next step. So you can use your automation to say, hey, welcome to that free trial. Here's the link to unlock the full course. It's capturing the baton and passing it forward. You can use the course experience automation to say, thanks for buying the course. Once you've learned this stuff, join the membership for support while you work on it. You can use automation to deliberately pass that baton forward. And what you are doing is, number one, making it easy for customers to know where to go next and exactly why. And number two, you're patching the gaps that customers and leads would have otherwise slipped between. The more thorough and intentional your automation and your bridges become, the easier it is for the customers to traverse this journey. So to underscore that, those bridges, right? The pathway you are building, it should do two things: fulfill on the expectations that are set and lead them towards that next milestone. So the third process of this part of the diagnostic, go ahead, Jade.
Yeah. Okay. I just love this because I learn so much every time. Like, it literally never gets old. And the part that just blew my mind, at least for like where I'm at today, the part that blew my mind about that last slide, if you wouldn't mind taking back one, is that when, for some reason, even though I've seen this before, for the whole 30-minute tee up to this, like, I think any halfway, even barely experienced automator would just assume that the bridge that you're alluding to is email, is follow-up, is just the messaging telling them to do the next thing.
Yeah.
And I think what's really detailed and important here is that it's not just free trial, email them to buy the course, email them to buy the membership. It's free trial, but make sure they have an incredible experience and handhold and over deliver and offer expertise and allow them to raise their hand or what's going on so they feel how amazing it's going to be. It's not just email saying, hey, I promise this is going to be really cool. I swear.
Yeah. I mean, email certainly is one medium, right? But the bridge is comprised of all of the things that happen between those two milestones. So to Jade's point, that is the experience they have in the login where the free trial is delivered. It is the experience they have with text reminders around an appointment or ads that they're seeing during that chapter of their customer journey, right? It's all of those things. Now, I don't want to overwhelm anyone, so it certainly can be a series of emails in a version 1. But I want you to think about the bridge as being all of the encompassing experience that they have between those milestones. And everything should be speaking to the expectations that were set and guiding them towards that next milestone. And that will, increase your conversions, enrich your customer experience, and reduce the leads that might otherwise go cold or slip between the cracks. So question one was, is it there? Like, what is something happening? Because like there should be, but if you identify a gap that has no bridge, start by adding something there, a first version, so that customers are being validated, heard, respected, and led, right? And then the second stage is to evaluate, okay, what is there? Is it strategic, right? Is it doing something that we design, that we are proud of? Is it creating an experience that we know is productive for the customer and for our business? And then the third layer, probably my favorite, is could this be automated, right? Because oftentimes the answer is yes. If we know where they came from and we know where they are going, that's a perfect opportunity to use automation to support them, right? Now, I'm not saying it needs to be cold and robotic. It can be intentional and specific because you're speaking to them at a juncture in their journey that isn't a mystery, right? So ask yourself, could this be automated? And use automation intentionally, not to take humans out of this process altogether, but to deliver results faster for your audience and to allow the human resources in your business to be deployed with, a greater respect for the things that are the best use of our time, right? The things that are enhanced by having a human do them. So you might still conduct your consults or your demos in person, but the automation packages it up so that you're not doing the follow-up or the pre-messaging to remind people about it, right? So ask yourself when you're examining those bridges, could it be automated, right? Are we using automation to guide them forward to the next milestone? And if I get really into the Olympics every time they come around, in the Summer Olympics, the track and field relays have a literal baton pass. That is the way that I visualize this. Each milestone is passing that baton to the next bridge, which is passing it to the next milestone. And that is how we make sure that the gaps aren't allowing prospects or leads to slip between them, because the baton pass is intentional. It was designed by someone, and we're using automation to make sure that there's no human error where we forget to get things done in that process. Okay, so hopefully you're following and asking yourself these questions. What are my milestones? Are the bridges there? Are they strategic if they are there? And are we using automation, or could they be? And some of you might be thinking yes to all of those. I know my milestones. I know my bridges. They are strategic and they are automated. And that's great, right? I mentioned at the beginning, that means you're on step 45 in the IKEA instructions, right? And you're ready for step 46. Okay. Barbara, I'm glad that this is resonating with you. For Barbara or for anyone else, we will have this replay available because I know sometimes it takes more than one viewing or more than one session to soak this material up because different people are taking away different light bulb moments. Now, to translate this into Keep's Automation Builder, for those of you who use Keep, we have goals and we have sequences. The milestones are your goals. And the bridges are your sequences, right? So when you're looking at this flow, it's just as easily translated into the automation builder inside of Keep to look like this. And I know that High Level and Active Campaign and Entreport and all of the other systems have their version of automation builder as well. And so don't get attached to the language, goals or sequences. Think of it as milestones and bridges, and then whatever technology you use to support your business, find the corresponding tools to set this up. The milestones are those inflection points, and the bridges are the actions and the experience that happen in between them. So stage one of this diagnostic is to map your milestones, to articulate those high-level touch points, whether it's 3 or 5 or 7 of them, or maybe even an even number, and then to pave the path in between them. So to make it as easy as possible for as many leads as possible to make it from one milestone to the next, this is how we maximize the paid traffic we are doing, the sales in our business, by helping as many people as possible make their progress forward. Okay. So as we enter part 3 of this conversation, we're going to talk about turning up the traffic. And the reason that this is so important is because we can design a customer journey on paper or even using automation, but as humans, there will be some assumptions baked into the process that we lay out. And the way that we validate our assumptions or find the things that we overlooked is by adding real humans to this process. So to do that, you need some version of traffic, whether it is paid traffic or it could be organic traffic. Those are the options for getting new eyeballs into your journey. The goal here is to put real humans into this process so that you can see how it works. You can identify bottlenecks or pinch points or things that you may have otherwise overlooked. And the way that we do that is to start measuring those milestones. So I mentioned earlier it could be 3 or 5 or 7 or however many milestones it takes for your process. So let's use this as an example. Milestone 1, visitors on your website. Milestone 2, opt-ins to your email list. Milestone 3, free trials of your course. Milestone 4, purchasing the course. Milestone 5, joining your membership, right? So this is an example flow of how people might become customers and subscribing members for a business, right? And I've just put some placeholder numbers in here, but what we want to do is put tracking in place for each of those milestones. So if it's all in one platform, great. You just set up the reports for each of those milestones. But oftentimes these data points will come from different tools or services. Visitors might come from Google Analytics. Opt-ins might come from lead pages. Free trial might come from Keep, and purchase might come from Spiffy, right? If your data is flowing through different systems, you might need to do a little legwork to consolidate this information. But the goal is not just to track 1 month's worth of data, but to start to establish month-over-month trends. So you can either mine this data retroactively, go find it for the last 6, 8 months or 1 year, or you can start tracking it today moving forward so that you have it in 3 months or in 6 months. But the goal is to do more than 1 month because there will be anomalies, right? And you need to be able to balance those out with averages. And so if you know you have a seasonal business where there's always a spike in a certain season, well, it's not fair to do 3 months that include only that season because the rest of the year won't look that way. So measuring it over time is critical for washing out some of those anomalies. We're not just looking at the hard data here. What we are actually trying to do is find the conversion percentage between those stages. So I mentioned 1,000, 250, 130, and 5, but we're not just looking at those raw numbers because in a vacuum, that doesn't mean a whole lot to us. Instead, what we are looking at is the conversion percentage between those. Now, that could be like that first one, 25%, right? Or 40% or 30% or 16%, depending on what those stages are. It's not like in a vacuum, though, that doesn't even tell us a whole lot because it's not realistic for us to have 100% conversion all the way across the funnel. That would be great, but very seldomly, never, is that how things work. So the goal is to establish those baseline conversion metrics, whatever it is for your business, right? You can compare to other industry metrics, but it's going to be unique because your product is unique, your audience is unique, right? So it's more important to establish it for yourself. What does it look like for our business? What is our average between this milestone and this milestone, right? So you might have an average of 25% conversion between the visitors and the opt-ins. You might have an average of 40%, an average of 30%, and an average of 16%, right? Those are just made up numbers. Your numbers will be different. But what that does for us is it sets a baseline that we can begin to track. And when you have that conversion percentage, that is what you plot over time. So the percentage from month to month, right? Is that holding steady or is that moving up? And the goal is that it should be either level or improving, right? It doesn't really matter what that number is as long as it is holding steady or going up, right? What you want to avoid is having your conversion percentage slightly diminishing over time, right? Because that means things are trending in the wrong direction. So don't worry about 100%, just worry about the trajectory of that average. Is it steadily improving or holding level? Either of those are acceptable. Of course, we'd like it to be improving, but sometimes you're happy that it's holding steady because other factors in your business might have changed. So this allows you to focus on not just a high traffic number, but the specific percentage of people that are converting and making sure that you are at or exceeding the baseline that you have established for your own business. And with that data in mind, you can start to look for those drop-offs and the bottlenecks. So where do we have a disproportionate amount of our traffic getting stuck or disappearing? And when you identify those areas, that is where you go to work. So, hey, we know that 25% of our people are converting here, and we know that 16% are converting here. Now, if those numbers are statistically consistent or better than what we have seen previously, then that's not a problem. But if they are below the averages that we have seen in the past, well, that tells us there's an opportunity there. 75% of our website traffic isn't turning into leads. So there's an opportunity for us to improve that through new messaging or clearer call to actions or more targeted traffic. And conversely, if 84% of contacts are getting stuck there, well, maybe 16% conversion is phenomenal. Maybe it's the best we've ever done. But if you know that it's below what your historical average is for that particular conversion, then there's an opportunity for you to make the offer clearer, to address concerns you know people have, or to try and reposition the benefits of why they would want to join the membership or whatever that next milestone might be. So when you identify those pinch points, those bottlenecks, those drop-offs, you have a few different options. Number one, if the recipe works, you could just put more people into the journey, right? If your conversion percentages all the way across are producing growth for your business and profitability for your margins, nothing's broken. Continue to slowly ratchet that traffic up. And the reason I say slowly is because sometimes those percentages don't scale. So you want to increase your budget for paid traffic so that you increase the people, and then you want to continue to monitor, are those conversion percentages holding? And that's another reason why it's important to focus on the conversion percentages rather than the raw data. Because if you change your budget, the traffic number is going to change. So it might look better, but if the conversion doesn't improve with it or doesn't scale with it, then more traffic isn't helping you. It's just wasting your budget. So focus on the percentages because the raw data points might change. The percentages are how you look for those clear averages and that you know this conversion is apples to apples comparison. So option number one is put more people into the journey. Option number two is to increase the conversion between the milestones. So focus on those handoffs. How can we get more people from one to the next? How can we improve that bridge, reduce the friction, or make more people get through this process more easily? And number three is you could just accelerate it. Work on reducing the amount of time it takes for somebody to traverse that. If you know that somebody usually spends 30 days in your free trial, well, how can we get that down to 2 weeks? If it usually takes them, 10 days to book a consultation, how can we get that down to 4 days, right? So look at how you can accelerate the pathway between those milestones, because that will do two things for you. It'll increase the number of contacts who make it through because there's less opportunity for them to disappear. And number two, it'll strengthen your predictions and forecasting because the closer you are to that number, the more reliable it is. If you know that you're going to make 100 sales in 30 days, your confidence with that is a lot higher than I'm going to make 100 sales in 6 months, right? So knowing that it's going to happen sooner gives you more confidence to lead your business in a way that makes more sense. So those are your three options. Put more people into the journey, increase the conversions between the milestones, or accelerate that pathway. And spoiler, you can do all three of these, right? Feel free to dial your traffic up while also increasing that conversion. Feel free to increase your conversions while also accelerating it. So what you do first for your business, it depends on what you need. And this is where we enter the diagnostic part of this. This is where the doctor sits you down, is reviewing your chart, and starts to make prescriptions as to what you might want to do based on the results of your physical. So I mentioned what you do first depends on what you need. There isn't a singular recommendation that I can give to everyone. This is the part where you need to look at the work you have done on your milestones, your bridges, and your tracking, and here is how you translate that into action. Do you need more traffic, more leads, more sales, a higher customer lifetime value, right? All of those things are desirable, and they each can serve your business in different ways. So here are some ways that you can make that determination for your business. Number one, if you have no or low traffic, right? If you have Google Analytics on your website and you see that I just don't have a whole lot going on there, this is where you might pursue keyword research, focusing on the pain points of the people that your website serves, paid ad strategies. We recently hired Mr. Paul Sokol for a paid ad consultation for Monkeypod, and he was kind enough to let us record that entire conversation. We've published it as a blog post and on our YouTube channel. You're welcome to work with an ad strategist one-on-one, but if you want a free resource, I recommend checking out that article so that you can see the types of conversations that take place in a paid ad strategy session. This is also where content marketing and partnerships can be really valuable. Content marketing, because of the SEO implications, it's a great way to help more people find your brand. But partnerships can be a powerful way to reach a new audience. Somebody who might have tens of thousands of people in a similar space, but doesn't have products that compete with yours. Well, maybe they're in a position to promote for you, to cross-sell your products to their audience for a slice of commission or some sort of reciprocity, right? So if you have no or low traffic, those are the things that I would pursue. Now, if you have traffic, but not enough leads, right? People are making it to your website, but are not turning into leads. This is where you could focus on your messaging alignment, right? Focus on is the traffic that's showing up there, is the messaging on the website speaking to them? Maybe there's a disconnect there and we need to modify our traffic targeting or change the messaging on the website so that there's more alignment there. Maybe you need a stronger call to action. It's not clear what they should be doing next when they get to your website. Or maybe you need more valuable offers. You might be proud of your lead magnet, but if it isn't enticing enough for people, maybe it's not as valuable as we think it is, or there's a way that you could make it more valuable so that it's more alluring, so that more people are opting in. And maybe you need less friction at the point of opt-in. If you're asking for too much information, then really qualified leads might be getting hung up because they just don't feel comfortable giving you their phone number yet or some piece of personal information. So this is where you can revisit the friction somebody might be experiencing as they are opting in. So that is what you can do with no leads. Now, if you have leads, but you don't have sales, or maybe you have low sales, this is where you can use automation to address doubts. Maybe you need to review your pricing model or, revisit the misaligned messaging to make sure that people are clear on why this product is valuable and why it is valuable for them. This can also be a symptom of poor targeting. If you're capturing leads for an ebook, but your product doesn't directly correlate to that ebook, you're going to have a low conversion percentage because the people who requested that ebook feel like the product isn't necessarily a good fit, or they don't understand the connection between it. So make sure that there is a through line between the lead magnet you are offering and the product that you are promoting as well. This could also just be an opportunity to improve or extend your follow-up to make sure that you are touching base with people after their free trial or after their consult or after their demo to make sure that they feel led forward. Or you are using automation to address the frequently asked questions. Time and time again, we know that people aren't buying for some reason. And if those are predictable, you can use automation to make sure that you assuage those doubts before they even occur. Now, if you have sales, but then people aren't coming back, so you don't have repeat buyers. This is an opportunity to redesign your onboarding, to go above and beyond their expectations, to include additional follow-up, to set clearer expectations about what is going to happen in that post-purchase experience, or to personalize it so that they feel like they're getting a white glove experience, even if automation is doing the heavy lifting for you. And then finally, I love using this opportunity to design an intentional product progression path. So this is taking your existing product offerings and mapping those as milestones. How do people go through our product offerings, and do we have bridges guiding them from one to the next to make sure that it is clear what they should buy next? And finally, if you have customers and repeat buyers, but you're not getting referrals, or you're getting very few referrals, this is an opportunity to really level up the customer experience so that they naturally want to review you, they want to refer you, they want to leave a testimonial. You can use automation to request it, to ask for referrals or testimonials, or to incentivize them with maybe a free offering of some sort for those who go above and beyond and record a little video snippet that you can use across your social channels. So based on what you need, you can do different things to address those different symptoms, whether it's low traffic or low opt-ins or low sales or low repeat buyers or low referrals. All of those are areas where you could make improvements to get more out of your existing efforts. The question is, where do you have the most opportunity, right? And some of you know that right off the bat. You're like, okay, this has been really clear for me. I need traffic, or I need leads, or in Heather's case, I need referrals, right? And there's opportunity to use automation in those sections to make sure that it is happening and happening more consistently. Now, my recommendation is to just pick one priority. I said some of you were going to leave this conversation with a long to-do list or an abundance of ideas, and that's great, but my advice is to not chase them all simultaneously, is to start a parking lot for those ideas and to focus on the top priority, the one where you have the most opportunity. And then...
Sorry, Greg, I don't want to interrupt for too long here, but I think that there's just something so incredibly important about that piece, because I know... I don't know about every single person who watches content from Monkeypod, but I know that a lot of people in the automation industry, we all flitter. We all have this kind of ADHD tendency where we want to do all kinds of things all at once. And I think entrepreneurs in general beyond our industry do that too. Jade's given me a face like, no way. But this isn't just like a good sounding idea. I had an entrepreneurial friend of mine sit me down in person a couple months ago and say, you need to do less things, do fewer things at once so that you can see the value of that thing sooner, right? I could improve 7 things about my business over the next 7 months, or I could improve 1 thing over the next 1 month and start getting the value from that one before I move on to the next. And so just as I listen to you talk about this, I'm like, yeah, it sounds nice to hear a presenter say these things, but there's actually, like, if people wanted to interrupt their brains for a moment in this presentation, there is something to say, like, you've got 5 bridges that you need to build. One probably is urgent. One probably is most impactful. And I don't want to slow you down, but I do want to say that I'm trying to embody this slide in my own life right now.
Yeah, I think that's, a testament to like the longstanding value of this conversation is like the 3 of us who have all seen this presentation or given this presentation, like we still watch this and take reminders for ourselves. Like this isn't the type of thing that you watch it and like internalize it and like never need to revisit. It's a diagnostic that you should use regularly, because each time you do, you take different things away from it based on where you are. The analogy I like to use for what Karen was just describing is like, are you cooking chicken or steak? Because steak, you can cook part of the way and then pull it off and it's still good, right? Like different people will choose steak at different temperatures. But chicken, if you don't cook it all of the way, you will make someone sick, And so like half-baked chicken isn't serving anyone. So for your business, focus on, is it chicken or is it steak? And if it's chicken, you got to get it all the way done or you are at risk of poisoning someone. That is the way I like to think about that. I could see Cameron over there with a little discomfort due to maybe how close that hit to home, or just perhaps the idea of food poisoning.
Screaming about chicken.
Yeah. So the thing about now, to give you permission here is, like, as you are building this, right, you can also accelerate it. And that, to me, is a really exciting opportunity that too many businesses overlook. So think about tracking how long it takes for contacts to go from milestone to milestone, and then work on helping speed it up, right? So what is it that needs to happen in order for this to go more smoothly? You can address objections, you can improve your targeting, you can create smaller milestones. And yes, you can do all three. Let's talk specifically about creating smaller milestones, because I said I would revisit this. So if you have an opt-in leading to purchasing a course, leading to a membership, right? Those are 3 high-level milestones, and that's great. But if you know somebody is getting stuck between the opt-in and the course, well, there's a lot of things that could happen there. And so by breaking it down and introducing smaller milestones, it helps you get clearer on where the friction points are. So, well, we know after they opt in, they have to actually complete the free trial, and then they buy the course. So maybe they're opting in, but they're not completing the free trial. Or maybe they're completing the free trial and they're not buying the course. But those are 2 different challenges to solve. So the smaller your milestones are, the clearer you can be in where you need help, where to put your focus, right? Whether it is buying the course, taking the survey, or joining your membership, right? Like, having smaller milestones allows you to do 2 things. Speak clearly to your customers, because you know exactly where they are, where they came from, and where they should be going next, but also get focused in your energy for resolving friction points or bottlenecks, right? The follow-up that you have in each of these gaps is focused on the specific next step that they need to take in order to keep moving forward. So I don't recommend having 1,000 milestones, but, having 7 is better than 5, and 5 is better than 3. You should get a little more granular to give you more insight into what that experience can look like. So I just went from 3 down to 5 and now down to 7 milestones, just to illustrate how the journey itself hasn't changed. Like, the customer's experience is identical, but we are adding more insight to this process by breaking it up into smaller chunks, so that if there is a challenge, we now know where to go in order to resolve it. Here is a quick recap for you. You start by mapping your milestones, the high-level touch points, using the purchase as the anchor. What happened before or after that, right? And then you pave the path between those milestones. How does somebody go from 1 to 2, from 2 to 3, et cetera, et cetera? You use automation if and where it makes sense to have it standardized and optimized. And then you add traffic to this process so that you can see, is it working? Where are our conversion drop-offs? You start to measure by setting benchmarks for each of those conversions between the different milestones, and then you work on optimizing it, either by adding more traffic, accelerating that, or increasing the conversion between them, and then you just do it over again, right? You can use this same audit process and new priorities will reveal themselves. If you like the way the recipe works, just keep adding traffic. But if you know that there are tweaks or modifications, then congratulations, you're part of everyone, right? We all have small tweaks and modifications, and that is the name of the game we are playing, is how do we slowly improve those conversions between stages, which creates more customers, more sales, and more impact from our business, right? That's the game that we are setting out to do. Now, in closing, I have 5 simple reminders I want to give you. Parting words of advice, and I recognize that we are right at time, so if you need to jump, please feel free. Thank you very much for joining us, but if you have time to stick around, this advice, I believe, will serve you. The first is a reminder that the goal of this diagnostic is to reveal your next priority, right? It should help you reveal where your time should be spent right now. How you solve it is up to you. It depends on what your business needs. That's the part of the conversation where we said, I need traffic, I need leads, I need sales, I need repeat buyers, or I need referrals. And I just want to call out that there are no shortage of tactics, strategies, blueprints, downloadable campaign templates, right? There's so many different resources out there, schools of thought on this. So I don't have a specific recommendation for one way to move forward with your business. My advice is to find one that resonates with you, commit to it, measure it, and make improvements, and then repeat. The problem people get themselves caught up with is they don't commit. They're trying to do a bunch of different things and they wind up with a plate full of half-cooked chicken. And my other reminder here is that not everything that needs to be done by you. If you were nodding along during this presentation, feeling really good about the direction, but concerned about how it might get done, recognize that this is something you can hire help with. You can join the OG membership as a support resource to ask questions and get guidance while you are applying this in your own business, or you can hire a consultant. We can connect you with friends in our network who do this for a living, or you can find your own resource, somebody who can, partner with your business, or hire someone as a contractor that does this work to help lead your business forward. And finally, or maybe I have one more after this, don't let perfection get in the way of progress. Version 1 can be 3 milestones. Version 2 might have 5 and version 3 might have 7, but don't try to do everything all at once. You can start simple. It doesn't need to be perfect for you to start benefiting from this. One small tweak can really dramatically improve your customer experience, even if you know there's more changes you want to make as well. And then finally, for the second time finally, choose tools that multiply your effort and complement your strengths. This is a reminder to myself as much as it is anyone else. We're really good at a lot of things as humans, but to adding the right tech stack to your skill set can be a multiplicative return. It can be an exponential multiplier that helps you get a lot more done by layering in smart tools at the right times. 2 quick plugs here for some courses from the Monkeypod universe. If you are looking to learn more from Monkeypod, we are launching very, very soon here the fundamentals of email delivery. In fact, if you beg and plead with Mr. Cameron Tulloch, he might be able to get you in as a beta tester. That is still a paid tester, but perhaps with a discount for early access. And that is all about making sure more of your emails get opened, get read, and you can produce results from your email marketing strategy. Especially important with the upcoming Cyber Monday, Black Friday promotional season on the horizon. And then we also have our flagship course, The Fundamentals of Business Automation, where Jade, Cameron, and I take a fine-tooth comb and go over the entire customer experience, zooming into key junctures where we know automation can make a difference as you enrich your customer experience, grow your sales, and save yourself time. My friends, I believe that is all.
Wow.
Woo! How
you
we feeling?
Are muted, Jade, but you want to say some things. I feel great, Greg. And I hope anyone in the chat, if you're still here, let us know if you feel great too. Yeah, like you've said, I think this content has only stood the test of time and only been reinforced. Tools change, tools evolve, marketing strategies and tactics change and evolve. But that just highlights that, looking for that place where your conversion is shrinking, or identifying that, a bridge needs to be reinforced or added, speaks to the fact that we're in this kind of ever-changing world of technology and tools and platforms and ideas. So I loved revisiting it. Jay, do you have any final thoughts?
It was so good that I only interrupted once. And if that's
I know that's hard for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that's hard.
My testimonials are like fire today. It's probably because Greg Jenkins is present, but for real, I had almost nothing to add.
Amazing. Well, thank you to everyone. Thank you to Cameron and Jade for joining, and thank you to everyone for tuning in live. We love these live events because it gives us an opportunity to connect with you all in real time. But please, if you're watching the replay at some point in the future, do let us know how this resonated for you. Give us your thoughts, your feedback, and let us know if you have any questions that this conversation sparked for you. Cam, I will turn to you for any closing remarks or to take us home.
I feel like you're absolutely right. We love to hear feedback from people. So if you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook later on, you want to give a comment, we love that. Also, team@monkeypodmarketing.com, which is the email address that the confirmations and things for these webinars come out from. The 3 real humans you see on the screen here do get that mailbox. So don't think it's some random hole, a dark hole that only sends outgoing messages. We really are there. So if you want to give us feedback, if you want to tell us what you're working on, what you're making progress on, we'd love to hear from you. And if you value events from us, let us know, because we've got a couple more planned and we're going to keep planning them. So if you have ideas, let us know. We're here for you, and go on, automate and grow your business. Bye, everybody.
Peace.
Bye.